In the opening of the parsha, God tells the Jewish people to contribute towards the building of the sanctuary. And he gives a list of items that was needed, such as gold, silver, copper. Then he says we need atzei shittim, cedar wood, which was used to build the walls of the sanctuary and some of the items. But the question is, where did the Jewish people get the cedar wood while being in the desert? Nothing grows in the desert. Rashi says that Rabbi Tanchuma explained that Yaakov, our patriarch, he foresaw that eventually the Jewish people are going to have to build the sanctuary. So when he came down from Israel, he brought cedar wood from Israel, planted them in Egypt, and told his children that when you come out of Egypt, you should take this cedar wood in order to build the Mishkan, the sanctuary. But the question is, in order for the Jewish people to obtain the cedar wood for the sanctuary, it was very simple. The Talmud tells us that the neighboring merchants from the neighboring countries would come to the desert. Jewish people would purchase some items. And so the Jewish people could have gone to the neighboring countries and purchased the cedar wood. Why was it necessary for Yaakov to schlep all these cedar wood from Israel, plant them in Egypt? And that was 210 years earlier. And then later, when we come out of Egypt, the Jewish people are going to schlep this enormous amount of lumber for the Mishkan, when it was so simple you could have just buy it from the merchants in the desert. The Rebbe gave this beautiful insight. And he explained that Yaakov Avinu, he saw that with divine insight that his children are going to be bitterly enslaved and tortured in Egypt for many years. And so he wanted to help them and give them a sense of comfort. Therefore, he planted the cedar trees in Egypt. And so when the Jewish people, while being in the exile, when they looked at the cedar trees, it gave them a sense of comfort and hope, because they knew that eventually they're going to be freed from Egypt, and they're going to use these trees to build the Mishkan, the sanctuary of Hashem. And so not only did they have a verbal promise that ultimately God will redeem them from Egypt, but they had a concrete physical reminder of where they came from. It came from Israel, and their destiny, that they're destined to go back to Israel and build the Mishkan with these cedar trees. And therefore Rashi mentions the sage that said this, and his name was Rabbi Tanchuma. Tanchuma means comfort, because the whole idea of the cedar trees and the whole shlep was because Yaakov wanted to give the Jewish people a sense of hope and encouragement and strength during their dark exile in Egypt. So Yaakov Avinu, says that Rebbe, not only planted physical cedar trees, but also spiritual cedar trees. The verse in the Psalm says that a tzaddik, a righteous person, is like a palm tree and flourishes like the cedars of Lebanon. Tzaddikim, the great righteous people, are compared to a cedar. So Yaakov planted all these great Jewish leaders, all the tzaddikim, throughout all the generations, and they serve, just like the cedar, they serve as a source of hope and inspiration, and to help us go through the dark moments of exile till the coming of Mashiach, which will be the ultimate redemption speedily in our days. Have a very good Shabbos.